Warm greetings to everyone and welcome to the Pham channel. This channel shares knowledge on holistic self-development through great books. Looking back, I know you've been through a lot endless work, after-hours classes, unavoidable social engagements, countless moments of frustration and heartbreak. You've probably lost count of how many times you've complained, saying, "The work is too exhausting," feeling drained and thinking, "I don't want to do this anymore." You're fully aware that you don't enjoy this job, but next month's food expenses, next month's rent, an elderly mother, young children, such reasons don't allow you to quit. When you hear encouraging words out there like "pursue your dreams" or "do what you love," we often feel filled with motivation. But right after, it's still a sea of uncertainty, because many people truly don't know what they actually love to do, and they are unsure whether this dream is really worth pursuing. So, when faced with a job they don't enjoy, many people clock in each day just waiting to go home. They don't feel the need to give it their all. They just do the bare minimum and wait for their paycheck at the end of the month. These repetitive days leave you feeling exhausted, bored, and even miserable. The truth is that life is incredibly short, but not all of us can pursue our dreams. There are too many obstacles and worries that make us feel life is increasingly dull and lacking in meaning. So, what should we do to get rid of this boredom? How can an ordinary person make life valuable? How can we experience a life worth living? For this most difficult question in life, a 90-year-old woman has provided an answer. She is Nakamura Tsuneko, the author of the book I want to share with you today, Life is Worth Living, originally in Japanese with a title roughly translated as The Habit of Reconciling with the Heart and Doing Everything Well. Nakamura Tsuneko is the oldest psychologist in Japanese history. Born in 1929, she worked diligently and tirelessly for 70 years, and at 90, she still had no intention of stopping. She is not a professor and has never published any articles. In fact, she is quite ordinary. Perhaps in the eyes of many, she had no qualifications to publish a book and didn't need to. And when an ordinary person writes a book, the content might come across as something like chicken soup for the soul. To be honest, before reading this book, I had similar concerns to some extent, but after reading it, I was truly surprised, because I realized I could learn many valuable life philosophies from Nakamura, a woman who had lived through the turmoil of war and the changes of the times. She has gained profound insight into all aspects of life. Despite the struggles and hardships over the past 90 years, she still appears full of vitality, allowing her to say that she would have no regrets even if she were to die. Life is Worth Living is like a small philosophy book on how to live, written by Nakamura from her 90 years of life experience. It offers you sincere advice on work, relationships, and happiness to help guide you through the difficult stages of life. 1. Working for money is a natural thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's an old saying, "People die for money, birds die for bait." However, often, the attitude of working for money can yield either negative or positive results, and it truly depends on our mindset. Nakamura was born in a rural area of Japan, in a family with 5 siblings. Her father was an ordinary elementary school teacher. Because the family was large, not everyone could attend university. Like many other families in her area, the affection and favoritism of the parents were always directed toward the sons. As a daughter, she didn't even have the right to choose her own life. At the age of 16, Nakamura had 2 paths before her: either get married or become self-sufficient. At that time, Japan was experiencing a severe shortage of psychologists. An uncle of hers, who had opened a clinic in Osaka, said that if anyone wanted to become a doctor, he would cover all the tuition fees. Nakamura saw this as an opportunity to go to school without having to enter the workforce early. Thus, she decided to leave her hometown for Osaka. In the end, she passed the university entrance exam, completed her studies, and became a doctor. Through her educational journey, it's clear that her choice to become a psychologist was not driven by passion or interest, but rather because she couldn't refuse the opportunity life had given her. Deep down, she didn't enjoy this job. However, she had to continue working just to support herself and her family. Moreover, if she didn't become a doctor, she didn't know what else she could do. Because of this, her inner self was filled with conflict and suffering. In contrast, the lives of her two younger brothers were much smoother than hers. They received support from their parents, got to work in fields they loved, and earned good salaries. Faced with such differing destinies, she felt both indignant and powerless. In reality, many people like her do not enjoy their jobs but rely on the income from these jobs to survive. Not everyone who graduates high school clearly knows what they want to do. Upon graduating and applying for jobs, they may struggle to get hired, only to find out later that they are not suited for that job. In this world, no job is perfect. Every job comes with unavoidable pressures. To secure a contract, you may have to smile, bow your head, nod, and do your utmost to deal with the most difficult customers. To land a full-time job, you have to dive into rush hour every morning, regardless of the weather, and cannot afford to miss a day, even if you're sick. Every job has aspects that make us unhappy. However, people pushed into extreme situations may suddenly feel a sense of relief. Not long after, Nakamura realized that if thinking about the purpose of her work led to feelings of frustration and suffering, it would be better to firmly tell herself, "I am just working to earn money to support myself. Working for money is not a bad thing. It is completely natural." In her over 70 years of practicing psychology, Nakamura has heard countless complaints from her patients. They feel frustrated and tired of their current jobs, but in reality, they do not understand that their suffering stems from not grasping the true nature of their work. Nakamura believes that, regardless of the job, at its core, people work to live. In other words, supporting oneself and one's family is the fundamental purpose of work. We spend more than half of our lives working. If we have unrealistic expectations or a heavy mindset, it's easy to become disappointed and anxious. When bound by salary, status, reputation, and recognition, we become blindly preoccupied with the opinions, tones, and gazes of others. We worry about anything that makes us uncomfortable or any disappointments we face at work. Over time, you will find yourself suffocating and exhausted. If this situation lasts for decades, sooner or later, your job will erode you and drown you in a sea of suffering. The author advises that people should not place too much expectation on their jobs. Whether you are a new employee or have been working for many years, do not overthink the tasks assigned by your boss. Focus on doing them well first. When you frown and think, "This job is not suitable for me," it only adds to your anxiety and makes you reluctant to continue. Therefore, when faced with any task, we should maintain a mindset of trying it out first and not give up too quickly. Consider it an opportunity for self-improvement. Even if you can't love your job, at least try to eliminate the thought of hating it from your mind and do your best. Before reaching the age of 88, Nakamura worked 6 days a week and was busy every day. Many people believe that she loved her job, but that is not the case. In her 20s, she worked to support herself. After getting married, her job became the foundation for building a family life, so she remained determined to work. She spent decades with this mindset, day after day, and work became a part of her. It allowed her to go with the flow, letting life unfold as it should. For her, the exhausting thoughts of not being able to do the right job are entirely unnecessary. Because in a person's life, the probability of finding a job you love is much like winning the lottery. Instead of constantly worrying about not finding the ideal job, you should focus on doing your current job well. And who knows, one day you might find a more suitable position. In fact, the secret to whether life becomes valuable or not, interesting or boring, lies entirely in whether you want to reconcile with yourself. Faced with destiny, if there is no other choice, it is better to gently accept, find joy in your work, and be enthusiastic about your career. Remember, we work not to seek recognition. Work is simply a means to earn money to continue experiencing life. When you are 70 or 80 years old, you will realize that winning or losing, better or worse, glory or decline are just clouds passing by. They do not represent your worth. There are many things that matter more than those, such as family, health, your inner peace, having food to eat, clothes to wear, a safe home, and a job to support yourself. A life like that is already enough. Working, thinking, and contributing for those around you without expecting recognition can bring wonderful surprises in the next chapters of your life. 2. Sometimes you need to be decisive and leave. In reality, many people are still forcing themselves to maintain their current situation. I'm not young anymore. If I quit now, what will happen to my elderly mother and young children? So I have to keep going. What will the environment and benefits at the next company be like? Can I find a better job than this one? As soon as these thoughts arise, the decision to quit is postponed. Mrs. Nakamura advises us that if there's no way to change things, then work happily and diligently. But if you are truly exhausted and have the ability to make a choice, then be decisive and leave. Among the patients Mrs. Nakamura treated, some were bullied at work, some were harassed by their superiors, and some didn't even have time to sleep, working until late at night. The surprising thing is that these people didn't quit, even when they were physically and mentally exhausted. If you feel overwhelmed by your work environment and your health is declining, don't hesitate to decisively stop at the right time. After all, the essence of work is to make a living. A company or organization is just a tool for people to earn money. If this tool excessively interferes with your precious life, then it's simply not worth it. However, there's one thing I want to emphasize to you, as I've mentioned in many previous videos. Many people advise you to pursue your dreams and do what you love, but that doesn't mean blindly following your emotions. You can only make an active choice when you're fully prepared and ready to take responsibility for all the consequences of your decision. If you quit your job without knowing how you'll manage your food and expenses next month, or how you'll pay rent with no income, and if you decide to leave your current job to open a business without having enough capital and need to borrow money with interest, then that means you're not fully prepared. Just like the book Side Hustle, which discusses the mindset of a side job, It points out that the way to prevent work from becoming chains that bind your life is to treat yourself like a company. Don't rush to quit immediately. From a business perspective, this would be a very risky move. A company can't rely on just one product as its source of income. Usually, a company has a stable source of revenue, which is then used to develop other products. It's the same when it comes to running your own life. Your salary is the stable income of your personal company. You should take good care of this income source and, from its stability, develop a second source of income or save money for the future when you have time and resources to develop another career. Therefore, the courage to break free from your current fixed job is also a motivation to change your life. However, you need to be fully responsible and prepared before making that decision. Otherwise, happily accept your present situation. Any legitimate job can make money, and no job itself can make you exhausted. The only thing that wears you down is your own mind. 3. Don't live with too much pressure. Let yourself flow naturally. Let yourself flow with the natural current. In swimming competitions, we often hear the crowd cheering, "Come on, push harder." People tend to mistakenly believe that if they exert all their strength and rush forward, they can overcome the resistance of the water and quickly reach the other side. However, dynamics prove that the harder you push, the slower you go. The nature of water is that it pushes back with the same force you apply to it. Life is like a river. The gentler and more relaxed you are, the easier it is to move forward. In the book Life Doesn't Need Too Much Effort by Juki Takahashi, there's a very insightful quote. There are two common regrets in life. One is not doing what you could, and the other is trying too hard. Effort is a necessary condition for success, but if you overexert yourself, it backfires. As you read through the book, you'll see that the author embodies a wonderfully relaxed approach to life. It is this lightness, this flow with the current, that allowed her to experience more than 90 years of a fulfilling life. So how can we gently glide along the flow of life, moving forward without exerting too much effort? According to the author, first, start by discarding unnecessary baggage. Mrs. Nakamura believes that the unnecessary baggage that makes your steps heavier and harder is expectations. The first piece of baggage to let go of is having too many expectations. If others can do it, I must achieve it too. I must succeed to make my family proud. In fact, the underlying reason you're striving so hard to meet these expectations is that you admire someone else's life or keep comparing yourself to others. When you're young, setting expectations as motivation to work hard isn't a bad thing, but as we grow older, we must learn to understand ourselves and gradually let go of the mindset, "I want more and more," whether it's a prosperous life or a simple one, a life with children or a life of solitude. If you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you'll never find the right answer. As a psychologist, Mrs. Nakamura clearly sees many patients whose lives seem admirable on the outside but who silently suffer inside. A company owner with a successful business but is physically and mentally exhausted, having to face relationship issues and unbearable loneliness. Or a beautiful young woman with a talented husband and well-behaved children, but because of jealousy from friends living far away, her friendships have broken down, leading to insomnia. Another girl born into a wealthy family but feels sad because of conflicts with her mother-in-law. In her 70 years of diverse experiences with various lives, Mrs. Nakamura profoundly realized that those who appear more prosperous and successful on the outside often suffer from more complex personal relationship pressures than the average person. Life's troubles don't disappear as money and status increase. Therefore, instead of admiring others through comparisons and forcing yourself to move forward and have this or that, leading to anxiety and suffering, it's better to accept your current situation and optimistically move forward at your own pace. Mrs. Nakamura believes that others have their lives while you have your own trajectory. Throughout her more than 70 years of work, she never compared herself to others and did not care if a younger doctor in her department held a higher position. She felt no dissatisfaction when seeing her colleagues treat patients better than she did. She believes that satisfaction in life is not determined by others, and she never pursued a life like anyone else's. Only by doing so can we live a truly fulfilling life of our own. In the book The Courage to be Disliked, it is mentioned that whether we are ahead or behind does not matter. The truth is that we are all walking on a path without a vertical axis. We continually move forward but are not in competition with anyone. The value lies in constantly surpassing ourselves. When a person truly lives according to their own values, not out of admiration for someone else or forcing themselves to meet countless expectations, even if they only emit a faint sparkle like a firefly, even if they only illuminate a small corner of life, that person is already truly worthy. In addition to expectations of oneself, the second burden to let go of is the expectations of others. If only my parents treated me better, why doesn't my child listen to me? Why does he always do things like this? Such longings will always create a chaotic mess in your mind. At 27, the author quickly got married through matchmaking, but later, when living together, she discovered that her husband was an alcoholic. Whatever money her husband earned, he spent it all on himself, while she had to bear the entire family's burden alone. In the era in which Mrs. Nakamura lived, divorce was a rare occurrence, and children with divorced parents were criticized. For the happiness of her children as well as her own physical and mental health, she had no choice but to adjust her mindset and lower her expectations of her husband to the point where simply being able to stand next to each other and speak at their children's weddings would suffice for them to still be considered a couple. After setting such a goal, she was able to completely relax. You will see that relaxation is different from endurance. She stated that life often requires relaxation. If you understand this truth, you will no longer try to endure but instead think about how to make yourself more comfortable. When her second son turned 5, she returned to work at the hospital and asked her parents to take care of the children. However, after her parents took control of the family, other problems began to arise continuously. The way to educate the grandchildren had to be decided by the grandparents. They even allowed her younger brother, who was in college, to live with them. As a result, conflicts between her and her parents were constant. Work was overwhelming, and life was chaotic. If expectations are too high, everyone will collapse. At this point, she could only lower her expectations of others and set limits for herself. In the worst case, achieving an average level was enough. She didn't expect her children to be raised perfectly, did not hope for her work to be outstanding, and did not demand harmonious relationships with her parents and husband. She only needed to reach a level above average. Everything else could flow naturally. Finally, this difficult period passed. Over the course of 15 years, she became an outstanding psychologist professionally, and her children grew up well. Later, when her children got married and had their own families, her husband grew older, his temperament softened, and he became a good grandfather. Indeed, we all wish for a harmonious marriage, a happy family, good meals 3 times a day, and a peaceful life throughout the seasons. However, the life of an ordinary person is often precarious and chaotic. In the face of this reality, we cannot struggle against it but can only let things flow by lowering our expectations of others, not making things difficult for ourselves, and not forcing those around us. The law of the world is that if we seek the higher, we will attain the middle. If we seek the middle, we will attain the lower. If we seek the lower, we will achieve nothing. When we fail to attain these, greed, anger, and ignorance will arise. Therefore, we should stop asking, lower our expectations, and refrain from the illusion that everyone and everything will go according to our wishes. This is the wisdom of living a meaningful and authentic life. To easily let go of the burden named expectations, the best way is to live with low desires and embrace solitude. Mrs. Nakamura is someone who does not pursue anything other than the most basic things in life, such as dressing neatly and politely, not carrying expensive bags or wearing luxurious accessories, and not pursuing delicious food or having a desire to shop. She says that if she and her family are healthy, full of energy, and have a close friend to talk to, then there is no need for anything more extravagant. After many years of life, she clearly understands that there will be no environment or person in this world that can satisfy you 100%. Even if you enter a workplace that you consider to be the most ideal, after a while, there will be things that make you feel discouraged. Or even if you marry someone you think is perfect and makes you the happiest, there will still be things that you may find hard to accept later on. In reality, whether it's parents, family, friends, or loved ones, others do not always care about you. Even a child you love dearly will become independent and start their own life as they grow up. Moreover, someone you devote yourself to love may also distance themselves from you. Therefore, for all the people you meet in this world, the best way to harmonize is to enjoy their presence when they arrive and let go when they leave. In the book The Lecture on Loneliness, it is said that loneliness is the beginning of a complete life. If you do not have experience being alone, you will not know how to harmonize with others. Forcing yourself to let go of some baggage may make you feel insecure and afraid of loneliness and solitude. But when you embrace loneliness, you will no longer have excessive expectations of others. When you reduce your desires, you also no longer want to compare yourself with others. In this way, your life will move forward without constraints, and you can live freely in harmony with yourself and those around you. No matter what happens, everything is valuable. One phrase that resonates with me from this book is that life is a journey that only goes forward and never back, so be grateful for everything you see along the way. This is also the life lesson I have gathered over the years, to be grateful for everything that comes and goes in life. Carrying a sense of gratitude as you live, even if your work is tough or tedious, you will appreciate every moment. You are grateful for the stable job that allows you to sustain your life. Carrying a sense of gratitude as you live, you will also have trust and a sharper sensitivity to the warm glimmers of light in life. Just like Haruki Murakami said, you must remember those who sheltered you with an umbrella in the heavy rain, those who quietly hugged you in the dark, those who made you laugh, and those who talked with you all night long. Whether they are someone who cares for you or a stranger you have never met, you will remember the ways they have helped you. You will recall their presence and contributions that allowed you to experience this life. Regardless of whether what you received was bitter or sweet, you will no longer harbor resentment or think too much about the trivial requests from others. Just focus on doing your best in the present task, dedicate yourself to those around you, and become a reliable person in work and life. Then you will find that what the English writer Rick Skin said is absolutely true. Doing your best for others is ultimately the best thing for yourself. However, you need to pay attention to proactively taking on tasks rather than intentionally trying to please others. Sometimes you need to recognize whether you are helping someone to achieve something or not. Then, you need to know how to decline at the right time. Ultimately, by carrying gratitude with you, you will no longer sigh in front of difficulties but will instead thank these challenges for sharpening your will. Mrs. Nakamura believes that everything has two sides. Painful experiences are meant to expand the essence of being human, just like muscles need to be exercised. The fruits of life will not appear immediately, but in every moment, there are certainly things we need to cherish. Be grateful for life without expecting it. Then, no matter what, you will see the valuable things we have and a life worth living. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Don't forget to give yourself a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to watch the latest videos every week. Once again, thank you all, and see you in the next videos. Best regards and goodbye.